Ready? All right. Okay, so the first thing I have to do today is I have to apologize to Dave Ladahowski. This is not going to be an MPI session. This is not going to be how to build a trike session.
Okay.
Because I didn't build it. This was built in 1975. It came to me with all the paperwork I needed to get it going with the safety and everything. So I didn't have to worry about any of that stuff. And I'm sorry I played along. I thought it was kind of funny in my own mind. So today is going to be very different from what you guys are expecting. Today is going to be going through basically my last year because I have done a rusted restoration on this thing. It is on the AMCM site. So if you want a little more about it, I will go through more about the trike, but it's going to be a lot about the last year. So starting with the trike, I got it in June of 2005. So if you can do your math real quick, it is June of 2025. It is the 20th anniversary of me owning my trike.
Oh, nice.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. So I can't take credit for building it. It was built in 1975. I was built in 1978. So I have had it down pretty much to the nuts and bolts. The only thing that I haven't had my hands on are the bottom end of the motor and the inside of the transaxle on the torsion bars. Everything else I've had down. Done a lot on it. The name is Max. Max when he's happy with me. Mad Max when she's unhappy with me. The gender does tend to go either way on that one. He is happy and she is angry. So inspired by the Mad Max movies, of course, just kind of bits and pieces of everything. It's a HO block, which is either a 67 or a 68 Beetle 1500cc with a 1600cc top end, which makes it roughly a 1566 or 1567 cc. The frame, interestingly enough, is from a late 50s Norton featherbed, as confirmed by John Thompson. And the front end is from a mid-90s Fat Boy.
Mid-90s what?
Mid-90s Fat Boy. Harley Fat Boy. So we had a bit of a setback last year, Sarah and I, starting with losing Rick Peters from the club. As most of us know, in a really bad accident out in BC. Terrible loss. I was a good friend of his, and it's a shame to see him go. Now, Bob Wishart was also injured in that series of accidents, and I was kind of called upon to make a trip out to BC to pick him up. So I go out to BC, hop in my truck, and make it to Medicine Hat, and my truck breaks down, and I'm in Medicine Hat for 3 days while Bob's sitting there waiting for me. So I was going through a little bit of mental anguish there. It's fun. And driving through BC the first time by myself at night ever was entertaining. Oh boy. I pulled in after my 3 days in Medicine Hat. I left in the afternoon. I pulled in BC where Bob was at about 2:30 in the morning. Just pulled in and crashed in the front seat where I was. Next morning, packed up his bike and headed home. The reason that I was pushing so hard to get home was my birthday was on the weekend, and I had an entire property full of people supposed to be coming down for my annual birthday party. So I was trying to get back, and we pushed hard. We went all night. We got home. Big payoff when I saw Bob Wishart's family greet him home, seeing how happy they were to have him back. So on our way home from that trip, I got a text message from Sarah saying there's some bad news. One of our big oak trees on the yard had fallen right on top of our Volkswagen van, which we had pretty heavily invested in the last 6 years. So in 2 shots we lose a key tree on our yard and our Volkswagen van and Rick. And then a little while later I find out that I have blown the top end on my trike.
Yeah.
So it was a rough month, and this is where the talk kind of goes somewhere you probably weren't expecting. And we're going to talk a bit about mental health. Because from July that year through February, I was in a depression. I was not in a good place, and nothing got done. Nothing got done on this machine. I had big plans June after the last rally, and everything was announced that the trike was going to be the next marquee, 3-wheelers for the next marquee. I had tons of plans, was going to get a ton of things done. Top end goes on it, and I just sink. So I needed to rebuild the top end, so that meant another summer without the trike, and that had been kind of bumming me out because I'd had a few summers that I'd missed the trike. And the trike, having it as long as I have, it's a big part of me. It's a big part of my mental health. If the trike is running and the trike is good, I'm happy, I'm good. Things are great. The last few weeks have not been great. Not that I didn't have people helping me, and not that I didn't have offers of help. It's just sometimes things don't work out the way you plan. I had a big decision to make in that time from July to February. I was like, okay, and I know this may sound simple to a lot of people, but with these machines you can either go with a single port intake or a dual port intake. And everybody was telling me that I should go dual port because if I wanted to do anything with the power, any performance mods, anything like that, parts are easier, you can mod things easier if you have a dual port intake. My thing is I don't like the way it looks. And I know that might sound trivial, but
No, that's fair.
my trike with dual intake on it, to me, would be incorrect. So I made the decision eventually in February, when I started to come out of my depression, to go with the single port intake head. So that took a couple months. Then the usual things, life gets in the way, family gets in the way, the property. And I just have a note here that says friends. And not that friends are getting in the way. Friends are always there, friends are amazing, friends help you. And if it wasn't for friends, it would have been a lot tougher getting out of this. Because after our van got squished, very shortly after, we had a very generous offer from our friends Jim and Della Beatty to use their camper for the next rally. And that took a big mental weight off of us because we have tents and stuff, and we just don't really want to do tent life again. And they came to the rescue for us, and that alleviated some of that mental weight. In the spring, when I was struggling getting this thing finished and 100% to where I wanted it, I got a phone call from a friend, a mutual friend of mine and Rick Peters, and he said, "Hey man, I've got a little bit of time, do you want me to work on your trike for you?" And I was like, well, you know, pride got in the way, and I said, no, you know, I really want to do this myself. However, I've got a little dirt bike that if you want to get that thing going, I would be forever grateful. So he took my 82 XL 100S Honda and the parts bike for it, brought it back to his place. I had put in 2 long sessions of working on it, once in 2014, once in 2019, and then it had sat till now. So I had done a lot of the work to it, but he was able to get it running, moving, stopping, everything, and spent a few weeks on it. Really great guy, and did it out of his heart because he wanted to. So that thing getting going was a huge weight off me. I was like, at least I have that to bring to rally if my trike doesn't work out. So friends above things is such an important thing that I've learned in the last little while. You can get stuck so deep in things, and your friends will see that and they'll offer and they'll help. And even if you don't accept that help, and even if that help doesn't end up working out, it's still there. You're not in it by yourself. So one thing that Sarah and I have realized is that things aren't always that important. You know, we put so much time into the van just to have it crushed by an oak tree and be gone in an instant. So all of these things are temporary. It's the friends, it's the people around us. It's these people that are looking at me, all staring at me because I'm telling a story, that are here for us. You know, like even if you don't think they are, and even if they aren't to the extent that you hope they might be, they're still there for you to offer encouragement, to offer advice. Like at the last meeting, I wasn't sure if this thing was going to be here. Yet today I wasn't sure if this thing was going to be here. But I had, I think, 4 or 5 people go through the list of things that I had done on this bike and offer little bits and pieces of advice, and a few things that I did end up checking and were good. But still things that I hadn't thought of that gave me hope, that gave me motivation, that showed me that other people care whether this thing was here or not this year. And that's a great feeling, just to have these people around us. So yeah, now that's kind of the unusual part. Now I kind of want to go back to the trike and do a little bit of a talk on that. I had a timer in my pocket for 30 minutes. I have no idea how long I've been talking. That doesn't matter. So, bit of background on the bike. The story that I got with it was that it was built in '75 by the Hells Angels in BC. Now, interesting tie-in with Sarah. Sarah saw this trike in BC in the 80s?
89 or 90.
Late 80s or early 90s. So she has actually seen it, so she's verified this is the same bike. She saw it before I did. So as the Angels were coming through, and this is the story that I got from the guy, I choose to believe it or not. As the Angels were coming through, they sold him the trike, the previous owner sold him the trike in the late 90s. In 2000, he brought it into a shop in Winnipeg called Auto Parts Center on Notre Dame. I don't know if you guys know it. And it was set up 70s. It had a 70s Kawasaki front end, and it had diamond plate, and it was like deep blue or purple kind of color. And he brought it in, they put the Harley front end, they did the epoxy paint all black, and got it kind of to where it is now, minus the spikes and all the crap I put on it. Funnily enough, since we don't really have it anymore, I found it in the Auto Trader, the physical magazine Auto Trader in 2005. Some personal touches that I've done on it. The wood shifter knob is from my folks' 70s Chevy Nova that we grew up driving. When we sold it, I ganked the knob and epoxied it onto there. Bandanas. People ask me about the bandanas sometime, and they have multiple purposes actually. For obviously keeping the wind and elements off of you, but this one keeps my throttle cable in place. This one covers up the fact that this mirror is held on with hose clamps. And other ones have structural purposes along the way. This one's holding wires. So they have both aesthetic and built-in actual purpose to them. People ask me about the spikes. Now, when I was working for Manitoba Hydro, we tested what they call ground chains, and it's basically big cables that when you're working on equipment, you ground them to make sure it's safe. On those clamps, they're a 3-finger clamp. They have these for closing and opening the fingers. And when those clamps wear out, we throw them out. So I salvaged a whole bunch of these and put them on my trike because I wanted something a little more aggressive, and on it, like the main thing was so that people wouldn't sit on my fenders. That happens so often. You take it down to Sturgis and people just kind of do one of these, and it's like, no, you do not do that to my trike. So we took a little bit of care of that. My next section is called Rides, Accomplishments, and Bragging, so I hope you're ready for that. It's taken me 5 trips to Sturgis with 0 major breakdowns. One time I ran out of gas. One time I had a broken fender mount because I was learning how to weld and I didn't know you weren't supposed to weld galvanized. So that was my fault. What were the other ones here? Oh yeah, I had a pair of swap plug wires one time. Completely my fault. After I got home from Sturgis one time, I had Sarah's friend Lori on the back and we were cruising along and all of a sudden the tire passed me and I was kind of down like this, so skidded off to the side, and luckily we were close to home. I called Sarah, she brought a jack and some tools, and I managed to salvage some nuts from one side onto the other and rode it home. And then the other time that it had broken down on me was actually at Rally one year. The throttle cable ferrule, the thing that you solder it into, actually slipped and let loose. And luckily enough, somebody from the club had the right part for me that I could actually screw it back on and keep going. So out of all the things that have, out of the very few things that have gone wrong on this trike, all of them have been my fault. So I think it's been amazing to me. It hasn't left me on the side of the road for any other reason than my own stupidity. A little more bragging, I rode within a few kilometers of a few tornadoes on a few separate occasions. The tornado in Eli, I was on the #1 highway when that touched down, so I was riding past all that mess and I just kept going. One of the things that I have written down here is the trike is stable even when you're not. So
I resemble that remark.
Are you talking about your mental health again?
that is another one, yeah. So the reason that I said that one, it's stable even when you're not, and I wanted to start out with telling you about how it is in corners. When you're going in a yield and you're going a little too fast and you intentionally give it a little twitch, it doesn't flip and roll, it slides. So this thing is basically a full-size drift cart if you get it going and sliding fast enough. I'm sure it would, if you hit something, it would hook and roll, but I don't worry about this thing rolling over just from going too fast sideways, which is really comforting because on a lot of the Harleys I hear if you go through a corner too fast, you just tumble. This thing just slides. So, and this is under the section of personal benefits and then a disadvantage. So I'm trying to sell you guys on these things. So, and going back to a quick brag, I'm almost done here. A couple of years ago, after I had been neglecting this thing for a while, so it was in no condition to go on a ride. It took me 34 hours straight to Ontario. I was going out to a friend of ours party. It's called the Back 40 party. And going back to friends, I needed to make that ride because it was the last year they were doing the Back 40, and they'd been doing it, I think, 30 years. And I've been to a couple of them, and it was always a good time, and they're really good friends. So I have to be at this last one. And I hopped on it, and I was like, you know, I might take it easy. I might, you know, go over a few days and make it there. But I would say 34 hours straight, but I would be lying. I pulled over at one place, went over to the side. I have a way of sleeping on the trike. I curled up on the trike, and I was going to sleep. And I started hearing rustling in the bushes beside me. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to ignore that and try to sleep. And it just kept getting louder and louder. And all of a sudden I was like, nope. Fired it up, went about a mile down the road, pulled over, stopped. Is it quiet? Is it quiet? Yeah, okay. Passed out for, I would say, between an hour and a half. And then a semi went by, woke me up, and I kept going. So 34 hours minus an hour, hour and a half straight. So it doesn't let you down. It's reliable. They just keep going. Just amazing. The better story about being stable even when you're not. There was one year I was at Sturgis and cruising around the campground, Glencoe campground on this thing, and we ran into some guys from Kentucky. And I don't know if you guys have ever hung around with Kentucky boys, but those boys are crazy. So we sat around their campfire all evening drinking moonshine and smoking Kentucky bluegrass. And this guy went into a story. Half of the words I couldn't tell you what they were because he was from Kentucky. He had a thick accent. And he was just going and going and going. But it was one of those stories that everything rhymed, and every time that he stopped saying something, it was it was funny, and it just had you rolling laughing for such a long time. And the entire time he was telling his story, we're drinking and smoking and whatever. So when he's all done that, and we're all like, okay, we should head back to my tent, I was in no shape to walk. I hopped on this thing, and it got me back to my tent. So this thing is stable even when you are not.
Right.
One big thing, one big positive thing I find with this trike, maybe opposed to some of the stuff that we see around here traditionally, is, and I like the way I have it written down here. It's opportunity for customization without reservation. You can, to put it in layman's terms, I think you picked up what I'm putting down. You can do whatever the F you want with this thing, and it doesn't matter. This will never be a 100-point bike. This will never be anything near a 100-point bike. And that's why I love it. Because I could cut something off of this, weld something else back on, change the motor, put a Porsche motor on it, put whatever the hell I want on it, and it's still my trike. It will never not be my trike. A couple of bad things about it: it's big, the fuel mileage is not good, it's about 25 miles per gallon, and you do get a lack of respect from certain people because it has 3 wheels. That's all the bad things I'm going to say about it. I'm going to leave off with a story. One day I was over at my parents' place, and my grandpa came over. And he was curious. He was curious about it. He's like, so now how does this thing work? And he was walking around, so I showed him all. I'm like, that's the clutch, you know, clutch is over here, your shifting's over here, brakes here, throttle's there. Like, oh, okay. And he sits on it, and he's like, can I hear it run? Well, sure. Fire it up for him. He revs it up a little bit, pops it in gear, and buggers off. I had no idea he was going to go for a ride. Would have said no if he had asked. But he takes off, and he's gone for a long time. Like, we were starting to get worried about if we were going to go look for him. So eventually we hear the trike pop, 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 coming back down, and he's got another vehicle in tow behind him. He had made friends.
Oh.
Apparently he ran into one of the few other people who own a trike like this, stopped, chatted for a while, and then came back, and that's why he was gone so long. So, just to go back over the positives on this thing: blast to ride, customize it however you want. You know, easy to ride. I think my grandpa was in his 70s at that time, and he just hopped on and took off on it. And it's just fun. I don't know what to say. I love it. Not everyone does. My final point: if you're thinking about getting a trike because you're worried about not being able to ride longer, this was the second streetable bike I ever owned. I've never doubted that I've wanted a trike. Just get one. And don't give up on riding, and just fly around on the thing. You can put these things through so much and have so much fun on these things. It's not just putt, 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 putt around. I power slide this thing, I rip around. I don't know if anybody saw me come in, but I whipped around the corner, and you don't have to be boring on a trike. Just get one. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're not taking questions?
Oh yeah, sorry, question.